was in the student movement during the authoritarian regime. In this moment, I realized that leadership is not about position, it's not about attribution, it's about taking responsibility.
And I'm so excited and thrilled to be joined from Indonesia by Luluk Hamidah.
I always see myself, as an activist rather than a politician.
You've worked at the highest levels of politics, and with politics, decision-making comes along the way.
Politics is about the game of compromise, so you can imagine how.
Let's talk about financial literacy. I think it's still one of the topics that is... Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode on Female Empowerment, the podcast. And I'm so excited and thrilled to be joined from Indonesia by Luluk Hamidah. Your career is incredible. You have been a member of parliament, you led your party, you really made an influence and still are making or continuing to make an influence for women in your country. But I really want to dive back into before politics and before the parliament, the person, the woman you are today, what made and what shaped you, and more than anything else, what originally drew you to public service.
I always see myself, as an activist rather than a politician, and always be like that. And I'm happy. Before I was in the student movement during the authoritarian regime Suharto, so you can imagine how was my political background. So at that time, and then I also initiate civil society organizations. I called Ahimsa Society because I really concerned of the issue on non-violence movements at the time. Basically, my background is deeply rooted in student movement and then organizing community gender advocacy, as well as how to ensure that our democracy is really going on the right way. And I spent working closely with the grassroots, for example, farmers, women entrepreneurs in the rural area, listening their stories and also listening what they hope and the needs of a just for policy formulation. So this is the one that give me more reasons why then I come to the political party and also to the public service is that this is a sense of feeling of restlessness. So I realized that while grassroots work is vital, of course, providing immediate help, but how long we can go. But if we have chance to enter to the politic and of course to public service, then we have more opportunity and more power to work and to give the best that we can do to our people. So this is one of the reasons why I just moved from social activities from the NGO, and then I decide of course, consistently in the political party, and then just you can call me member of parliament in 1990. In 2019 until 2024. In the first elections after the authoritarian regime, for example, when I was still in the student movement, when I recruit 17,000 volunteers to be observers for the first elections democratically at that time. But I think as a procedural democracy is okay. We every 5 years and then we have a election, right? Time to times we do the same thing. But then the question sometimes to the people rights is on points and really have a place for all the politician or all member of parliaments, because democracy as a procedural democracy is okay, but it's not enough. So means I always believe in something. As many activists from student movement, for example, or even the activists from civil society willing to come to the politics, it can be change many things. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Politics
Yes.
is a place of power, but most of all, it's a place of high pressure environments.
Exactly.
Because so many interests are coming into one place. So my next question is, what did high performance mean to you during that time for you?
Yeah. The In the weather policy, especially in the vibrant democracy in Indonesia, moment high performance sometimes often misunderstood just being busy. For politicians, if you're a member of parliament and you're busy and the people cannot meet up with you easily, then you are high performance. So the more you are busy, and we will give you like a note. Oh, you are very busy means you are in high performance. But of course, for me, high performance means that at least three things. Yeah, it's about impact, and then it's about integrity, and it is also about resilience. So how we able to translate this voice from the streets into the law? This mean a high performance for me. So it's mean taking the conflict, often very very painful stories from marginalized group or from women that I fight for. That's mean it's also the way that we can figure out how high performance we as a politician or as a member of parliament. And the second one is it was about navigating a pressure cooker without losing our moral compass. That's very important thing for me. When I was joined with the political party in 2008, my president party, Pak Mohamed, asked me, Lulu, please join us and please help uh, to establish this party stronger because you are student activists and also you have more experience in doing such good thing in the civil society. But at the time, I asked him, do I still have the moral compass as I have in the situation that completely different? Because of politics is always have a rule and also have discipline, right? Sometimes our colleagues is always tell me, okay, politics is about the game of compromise, but how long we follow the compromise, especially if there is the problem of our people are much more important to be overcome by us, for example, or just to please the ruler or to please the who is the power, for example, the president or something like that. So without losing moral compass in politics, for me is also something that we can say high performance. So
Mm-hmm.
you can do better without you are losing your moral value, even your moral compass. And you always remind yourself that you have a mission. Yeah, for me, for myself, for example, I decide to come to the politics, but I fully understand that I'm not bringing my self-interest. It's nothing to do with my own interest, but I have missions. How to bring the voice from the grounds and how people voice are heard because I'm here. So when I'm in it, how to give new meaning. So politics is not just how to make a compromise and how to negotiate, but how to put your value, your morality, and your idealism into policies. Yeah.
I find it absolutely fascinating that it's part of a high performance. That's true. It's true to stick to the values that you've been elected for, especially in politics, right? I have to
Yeah.
ask, did you ever see yourself in a leadership position like before your career in politics?
Yes or no? Yes means of course not always. I'm not always even in the leadership field, but to be honest, that I always have a calling. Yeah, so it's always calling to speak up. Who does that? Who cannot? Or eventually, that's what led me all the way to parliament. So how to see myself is I didn't seek leadership for a title. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Leadership is
yes.
something. It's not attributes. You are leader. No, no, no. But what happened was I kept finding myself in a situation where something was not right and where there was injustice or a problem that no one was stepping out to fix it. So in this moments, I realized that leadership is not about position. It's not about attribution. It's about taking responsibility. So
Mm-hmm.
no matter where I was or I'm in the front or I'm just behind the scenes, it's okay. But the most important is if we realize there is something right, not good for people, and then we taking responsibility.
Do you think responsibility is something we learn along the
Yeah.
way, or is it innate in us? Because it's very often, I feel nowadays people are trying to shag responsibility more, like to just not take it. So
I
this would
see.
be my question. Do we have it, or just simply, or do we learn it along the way?
Yeah, we have, but we also learn. We have okay. I have a long journey before. I mean, I start from really young age, and when I was 16, I already training with the causes in my hometown. I came to university, even I am just a student, and then when I joined with the student movement. Really, it's taught me that okay, we are a part of the Indonesian. Of course, we have a responsibility to ensure this our country. This is part of our nationalism awareness. It's depend of ours. It's not depend of somebody. It's not depends on the presidents, for example, or depend on their governor, for example. But as a citizen, even we are a citizen or we are a student, of course, we have a responsibility to take some roles, just to make sure that the thing are when I start to see if I want to protect the values that I believe in. So I could not just wait a leader to show up. Yeah, I'm not just waiting. Oh, okay, I'm waiting somebody to take a rule, for example, or we are waiting for our leader to give us instructions or command. But I had to become one. I think taking initiative is much more meaningful for us, especially that I really coming from the ground. So this is just example. I mean, in my party, when I had a really unpleasant experience because such a patriarchal behavior from my college, I'm not waiting the policies change, but the important thing is how to make policy in our party change because there is somebody who rise hand and speak up and openly inviting others and discussing what the thing that should be not implied in this party, how to respect more with the value of equality, how to respect more with women's college, etc., etc. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
what experience about the leadership what I mentioned. Yeah, the thing,
Yeah,
the small
interesting.
thing, the small thing.
Yeah, small things, but
Yeah,
that have a lot of
yeah.
impact, right? Let's talk about financial literacy. I think it's still one of the topics that is, we've talked about certain issues that women are facing, and financial literacy is definitely one of them. You've worked at the highest levels of politics, and with politics, decision making comes along the way. When did you realize that understanding money and how to manage it's not optional, especially for women in leadership?
I think important questions. Yeah. Once I was in the parliament, for example, and I'm come to the table and bringing the law or bills that we initiate. But the first lesson is that our college also always said to me, you have to think how we got the money to pay everything that you bringing to the table. When I asked for the victim trust fund, there was a really a big debate in the legislation committee because they said you will still national budget lots if we agree with your proposal. My proposal was about a victim trust fund for the victim, right? But this was very important. But then I realized I will not give up with that. But what I did was how to open the discussion and dialogue more and more and
Mhm.
to get agreement because there's understanding about the issue. And I was happy because the Minister of Finance then support me. And she said, this is very important, just write in the article. So it is not just encouraging their governments to give a victim trust fund for the victim, but it must be put in the article on the bill. So now officially we have a new thing, victim trust fund. So the issue of money basically taught me as a politician is not only about money skill, but it's also understanding that money is power and also a tool to win and to winning something good for our people. Yeah,
Especially in life, right?
yeah, exactly. And the second one, Simon's, you know that I always working in the crowd, right, with the people, and most of them are women, and especially women's entrepreneur, but in the small scale medium, right? They
Mm.
have a skill, I think. Okay, I'm not underestimate about their skill, but sometimes their barriers or the obstacle to grow as a women's entrepreneur is how to access the capital, how to access the finance, how to access the money legally, not illegally, but illegally. Because now we have a really serious crisis in Indonesia based on recent data. You know what? The total outstanding loan from digital platform have reached over hundreds trillions rupiah. It's almost 6 billions in US dollars, something like that. But the heartbreaking part is more than hundreds millions involved in this digital lending ecosystem. And many of them are small business owners, women, of course, and then also mothers. And many of them are millennial and also Gen Z. Can you
Mm.
imagine that they are really at this moment trapped in high interest debt, and they just start, yeah, to grow as a woman or as a entrepreneur, but they get trapped in an endless debt because don't have a knowledge about how to get the money legally, don't have a
Mm.
literacy how to manage the money, and whereas the source of their governments uh, who can help them. Yeah. So they not just come and go to their digital platform because everybody using a handphone or anything. But then digital platform is like two faces or have multi faces, not only as a tool to empower, but if you don't literate enough, then they can exploit you as well. So
Mm.
it's really the thing that I'm really concerned at this moment.
In your opinion, what is the first step, the very first step for every woman that she can take in order to claim it, to claim this financial literacy?
Yeah, I think first is the art of negotiation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Women are often socialized to be grateful for their offer rather than asking.
For whatever they've been offered. Yeah.
Exactly. What they are came from, and also whether it's salary or project budget or national allocation. Yeah, I don't think about national allocation. Even they don't have got to ask the pocket from their husband. Okay, husband just give the money, but sometimes they don't ask. Okay, why you give me like this, or why you give me this or that, but they don't ask where this money come from, etc., etc. Or sometimes even they don't know where husband's money goes to, and something have a courage to negotiate about this is also very important. So you must learn to advocate for resources without feeling guilty. Sometimes in our culture, asking money is something a taboo, so no need to have such a feeling of guilty. So you are not just asking for yourself, but asking for the impact that you are going to create it. So the second is a budget literacy or financial literacy. So you don't need to be an accountant. I always say I'm even not accountant, but I need to understand where the money comes from and where it goes. Exactly. So, and if you cannot reach the budget, for example, if you are a politician or you're a member of parliaments, so you cannot support the inequalities. You need to be
Mm.
able to look at the financial statement and see the story itself. It's more importantly is see who is being left out of that story. So if you're talking about women inequality, it is not only how to empower them and involve them in such a good program, but it's also very important that how much the national budget or government budget is allocated for women empowerment. This is also very important. So this is It's always become our concern because you know that not all the politicians that come to parliaments, they're coming with a conscious that the one and the most important function of a member of parliament is about the budgets. Yeah. So if you
Yeah,
are working for women's issue, so you also have to consider that the tools to empower women is also through their budget allocation or through budgetary literacy. And then the third one is maybe risk assessment. So leadership is about taking step or bold step
both steps,
that
yes.
often involve financial risk. You need to know how to calculate those risks so you can move forward with confidence, not fear. Always say, okay, financial independence give you a voice, but financial literacy give you a strategy. Sometimes our friend, but this is also one of their situation that many of women's politicians, why they're not confident enough when we are running to the election, because they're aware that not only how much money I have, but how I confident enough with my numbers of account, for example, to pay my political activity and how it can how we return it without doing something illegally or something illicit or it's like corruption, etc., etc. And much important when politics is very expensive, very costly, you know. This is not easy even for us. And the crazy thing, when the money politic itself has been normalized as their a part of their political electoral, you know. I don't know how to tell you, but I am not saying that only women who have a big pocket then you have a capacity to enter the politic. No, but at least we understand that we have to have a financial freedom first, right? And then we will be more independent. We will be more freely. No need too much debating with our spouse or our husband or family, etc., etc., because we finance ourselves and we also able to finance our political matters that we are really concerned about it. Yeah.
Being a politician, a female politician in Indonesia, can you describe it in a few words? What is it like? I have to ask.
Being politician, wow, I would say it's very, very tough. But don't give up anyway. Always reminds myself that okay, I have a mission and I decide to come to politics and also in the parliament. So I will not just run away. Okay. Just because I am in the such a very complex environments. So I don't think that I'm a superwoman, but I know that we have to really, really tough enough. So it's a constant uphill battle, you know. So it's constant uphill battle. So you're fighting the system, but and all mindsets at the same time. Your people, I mean your constituent or your people is always just watching you like you are under a microscope. People
Oh,
don't
yeah.
just people don't just at your works only, but they also look at your dress and how you speak, how your family, how your sons, how your friend, etc., etc. They are not just enough with you. So that's why we always have to diving into such different words, but never surrender. Never
Never
surrender.
surrender. I love
Never
that one.
surrender.
I love that one.
Yeah, never
Absolutely.
surrender. Yeah. We have a barrier, a structure, but we also such difficulties in culture, but how do we dive into line and safe?
Last but not least, what does success look like to you today beyond titles and positions? What does the essence of success really mean to you?
Success, I could leave my legacy to my young cadre or to other women, for example, and they also have a courage to speak up bravely and freely. That's also my That's the success means for me. So not just because I was a member of parliament and then oh, you are success because you elected as member of parliament. And there is young generations, they speak from their heart to the heart of people, and they're very brave to raise the issue about something that they feel injustice. Then this my legacy that I want to leave.
Wow.
And
Wow.
more
That's
women come to politics because they still have a confidence and believe that politics is a good way to have more people. People, politics is not messy. People is not something that more harsh, right? Politics is always open the opportunity even for good people, for good women or good activists to make some sort of change and for better life and even for better future. So that's what I believe. So if some of our young generations, they also have the same confidence and the same faith in politics, just like me, then that's also, I feel, okay, I'm done. Yeah.
that is so powerful. That is such a powerful ending of our deep dive. Thank you, Luluk. And I'm
Yeah,
super excited
welcome.
to I'm super excited to
Yeah,
dive into the
welcome.
next part where we get to know you personally better. It's called the fast Q&A section, and I'm super excited to get to know you personally better. If you could invite 3 historic people to host a dinner
Okay.
party, yeah,
Okay,
who would they be?
honestly, the first is Prophet Muhammad. I know they was impossible, but of course, it's always uh is someone that I would love to have a dinner party. And the second one is Laksamana Hayati or the Admiral Laksamana. Laksamana means Admiral, yeah. Hayati. Yeah, she was a legendary female admiral from the 16th century from Aceh Sultanate. And she also recognized as the world's first female admiral who lead an all-women navy in Balitrop at the time, and very famously defeated Dutch invaders. So it's proving female strength in combat and diplomacy. Of course, I would love to have such dinner with her. And the third person is Muhammad Gandhi. Yeah, that's
Okay,
my
yeah,
inspiration. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
So that's why I initiate my NGO Ahimsa Society. Yeah? It's
Yeah,
also inspired by him as well.
yeah. Okay, one piece of advice that has guided you throughout your entire life.
I think so. I said already, never give up. Actually, I just raised by my mother's because my father was passed away when I was 4 years. But my mother was one of the best campaigner, political campaigner at that time. And she always said to me, you are woman this physically, but don't limit yourself no matter what. Even you don't have a father because you are orphans, but you don't limit yourself. You can dive into anywhere that you would like to dive in. This very, very strong piece for me. Never give up. Never give up. Just be kind and focus on your missions. So that's why my mother, when I asked her to for blessing, yeah, it's always culturally. So I asked to my mother to give me dua and also blessing when I run for parliament's member, and she said, "Okay, I agree and I give you a blessing as long as you are not the ones, not corruption, and you focus on your missions. You just be kind with your people and always working for your people." That's my mother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So no
Looking back
corruption
now,
is number one. Yeah, exactly.
what was the turning point moment in your career?
My turning point was maybe in 2008. Yeah, the first, yeah, my turning point is in 2008 when I was training with international observer in Nepal for uh democracy, yeah, agenda. And then the president of the National Awakening Party, Pak Muhammad Iskandar, he is a president, and he's called me from Jakarta, and he said, "Lulu, please come back and help me join with this party to save the politic of Nahdlatul Ulama where I belong, the Islamic, the biggest Islamic civil society in Indonesia organizations. And then so I said to him, okay, if I join you in this political party, but can we have such a moral agreement? You know that I'm activist and always be like that. So as long as I always be who I am and be myself, especially when I have to come to such a very, very strict politically and very, very complex situation, but you let me as who I am, then I will train you. And what she said, yes, I agree with you. Why I agree with you? Because I need you because I know who you are. That's my turning point. So it's always became my contracts with him. And then this is the thing that changed me, also influenced me, but also have me courage until right now, especially during my duty in the parliament. So I can speak up anything freely because I know that my leader in the party keep the promises. And I said that as long as you trust me, and I will keep it, and I will not betray you in terms of my moral and ethical value in politics. And the second ones, I think, during in the parliament where I was interrupted during the plenary sessions, it's about the bill of sexual violence crime. So really, really, we got stuck because it's so difficult how to get the from all right. And then I just interrupts their house of speaker and I said, enough is enough. Yeah, enough is enough. How many victims we have, so we will come to the agreement to pass the law, or we have to wait until our members of family become victim and then we will pass the law. I think that's enough because we already have a data, already have a numbers, and I think that's enough. And that moment, one of the deputy house speaker said to me, "Look, your speech in the plenary session is the moment that we will not run away from you. That's the moment that we make decision. Okay, it's time to have a political consensus to pass the law." That's my 3 points. As long as you are confident enough with your mission and you know well what track you into the politic and you not betray yourself, you're not perpetrators for your missions, then I think the sunsets will come to you.
What a closing statement. I find your entire career so fascinating, but also the way you see the world. I find it absolutely interesting how you overcame obstacles. So thank you, Luluk. Thank you so much for sharing it.